let's get supper going. All right, so suggestion from a fan, our old pal Steve-O, said, I like your videos. Give us some like bachelor meals we can make. We're having a lady over for supper or a man over. I don't suppose it has to be.
Why? I'm feeling gender fluid this week.
We had to decide something easy that we think probably anybody can do. We're gonna do a little one pot wonder, just a nice little stew. It's cold, it's cheap, it's easy. You almost can't fuck it up. So good place to start for aromatics, which is all your vegetables basically. Carrots, onions, celery, garlic. That's all you really need. I have some cabbage and some potatoes.
Yeah.
And a nice herb is always nice for flavor's sake. So that's what we got. Not too big with your cuts. This is gonna stew down, but not too chunky. So you want to do, for your carrots, onions, celery, basically, 1 part celery, 1 part carrot to 2 parts onion.
Show them how to dice an onion, David.
How to dice? Okay.
A little big fat dice on it.
Okay, so nip your little tip up on the flat side, leave the root on. Try to cut it so it's as short as possible when you lay it down.
Yeah.
So if you look here, if I'd cut that way, when I laid it down it'd be real tall. But I cut it this way, it's kind of flat on that side, so it's not so tall when I lay it down. Makes it easier to manage when you're cutting. Okay, so to dice, it's a little bit fussy, a little bit dangerous because your fingers gotta be pretty close to in front of your knife. There's a couple ways to do it. This is the best way. You're gonna have to make horizontal cuts deep into the onion that way. You want to be safe while you're doing it. So to get a level cut, just flatten your knife out on the board, fingers up high, and then just bring your knife up a wee bit. That's probably too small for this stew. We'll do a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah.
That way I know when I make this score, it's more or less parallel to the cutting board, which is what we want. Same height up from that again. And don't try and force the knife through the vegetable.
You definitely don't want to.
Use the sawing motion, that's how you cut, and that's safer. Then we need to score, boom, boom, this way, at approximately the same width as we made our horizontal scores. Now this is the easy part. Now you just break it down, and everything's very much near the same size. And the only thing you waste is that goes in your stock pot. We already talked about making stock. So the cabbage and taters we gotta put in later once we get some cooking done. Herbs the same way. Need to bust up some garlic. Okay, garlic, you just rough the paper off of it. Click out a couple little cloves here. Okay, this is also a little bit dangerous. But you wanna moosh this garlic clove. You can use a meat mallet, you can use the palm of your hand. I use a knife. When you do that, you have to be careful because your knife is sharp. Knife on the garlic, hand on the knife, and then just put your weight on top of it. Mush it down. Okay, then to get the paper off the garlic, you just grab the little tail of it, and if you mooshed it properly, the garlic comes right out of the paper. So, one of the things, if you want to get into cooking, is learning the techniques of cooking will save you a lot of time and fussing about in the kitchen so that you work efficiently
and safely.
One of the things that saves you a lot of time is working with a knife. And it just takes a little bit of practice, and maybe sometime soon we'll do more techniques about it. So on the stove, crank it as high as it'll go. Whatever full whack is on your stove or your biggest burner. Oh, and then the fucking smell starts coming out of there. So I added just enough oil to lube everything up and not have any oil sort of sitting on the bottom of the pan. We're just kind of sweating this down, which means putting some heat in her until they kind of soften up a little bit. in every step of the way, we're going to be seasoning. So everything's softened up a bit. I'm going to dump that into this is beef, obviously, chuck roast, which is the front shoulder. We're going to need to remove most of the big chunks of fat. That doesn't have to go in the trash can either. You can cook that with your vegetables or whatever. So your meat, just nice bite-sized chunks. The bigger you cut it, the longer it takes to cook. The smaller you cut it, the less time it takes to cook. But you don't want to cut it so small that it's going to fall apart once it's cooked. When you see stuff like that, that's not going to tenderize in the cooking process. That needs to be removed. So a little bit of oil, just a little thin puddle across the whole bottom of the pan, not too much. Make sure everything is lubed up across the bottom of the pan. Then we're gonna let her get hot. As soon as I see a little smoke coming up out of here, that's when it's time to go in. So one of the tricks here is we want to brown this as much as possible. We're going to throw it all in at the same time rather than do it in batches or multiple pans like I talked about earlier. Make this simple, one pot, everything goes together. So you want to kind of not overcrowd the pan, at least to start. A little salt for each one. Okay, now I can keep laying some in. I'm just starting to kind of pile it up a little bit. Go in with the rest of it. Give it some seasoning. That's about as good as that's going to get with all that in there. So back in with this stuff. Some delicious stiff chicken stock that I happen to have laying around. Just enough to kind of float everything. Not submerge everything. Now my pressure cooker is kind of old and fucking dangerous.
A little bit.
But we got to get this up to a boil. And then we put an airtight lid on there and a weight on top so it can build up that pressure, cook our meat, and then we'll throw the rest of the stuff in there. Let it finish off and we'll be done. Be a nice tasty little beef stew on a cold,
sounds good,
miserable
man.
winter's evening. Boiling. I'm going with, now if you don't have a pressure cooker, you just kind of bring it back down to a simmer and let it go until it's tender. But we're going to speed that up. We let the braise go for like an hour. And I just turned the stove off. And I'll let the rest of the pressure out. Now it's not a bomb anymore. So what we're looking to see is the meat tender yet? That's what we're looking for. That's what we want.
That guy right there?
Yeah. God, it's hotter than shit.
Gimme.
I'll give you the fat part.
I'll take the fat part.
Tastes good.
Yeah, it does.
Not quite done yet.
Nope.
It needs to go a little while longer. I also need some seasoning.
I would agree with that.
I don't know what, who cares about pick here. I'm not going to use that for anything else.
I love cabbage.
Me too. It's really good in stuff like this.
Yeah, that looks good.
taters, we're just gonna give nice big quarters.
Gotta be honest, that's probably enough potato too.
It's one of my favorite things. One of my very favorite things. It's like that nice lady said in The Sound of Music. Except she didn't mention cabbage and potatoes and bacon. Oh, baby. So that extra seasoning there is for the potatoes and cabbage and the extra stock we put in there. And as soon as that comes to a little boil, put the lid back on.
What would you say is from this point?
I think 20 minutes.
Something like
20
that,
minutes.
yeah.
So simple. I mean, a couple hours, but not too much fussing about. You put it in a pot and then do whatever you want for a while. Tasty. Nice on a cold day.
Yeah.
Winter season. And pretty nutritious. And here's the thing. You want to know a secret? One of the best things about it? It's like dirt cheap.
Yeah.
To buy a couple of spuds and chunk of chuck roast. Throw it in a pot and braise it up. So give it a try.